What's up, you guys? Steven Vanderhook back again. We got another video today, jumping into the exciting world of big toys. We're talking boats, snowmobiles, RVs. It's going to be exciting. Let's go. For all you who are new to my channel, I appreciate the support. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. We're going to keep growing this channel, keep talking about finance, making it fun and interesting. Thank you so much. Let's do it. One of the most exciting phases of life is when you start to buy your own toys, and especially those big ticket items. We mean boats, RVs, snowmobiles, jet skis, like fun stuff. Things that people love to buy, razors, exciting stuff. Now, you might not be at that stage yet, but you will be at some point. And so if you're not there yet, this is still gonna be an applicable video. Plus, all the principles we're gonna talk about today are true for smaller purchases as well. So it doesn't have to just be those big ticket items. But we're gonna talk about the difference between owning and renting and how expensive owning these toys really, really is. We're going to start with our first example today of a boat. Now, brand new boats, we're talking about boats for wakeboarding, you can take out on the lake all the time. Those range from about 60 to 90K. So for today's example, we're just going to say 80K. Now, the first thing is, obviously, if you're talking about financing a boat, done, conversation over, you're making the wrong decision. If your goal is to be wealthy, financing toys and consumer goods like this, like boats and things we're not even talking about a car. We're talking about something that is totally a luxury, right? There's no justification to say this is a need unless you're a fisherman and this is your business, right? And so you don't have a Malibu out there. But if this is a luxury, you can't be financing luxuries if you want to get wealthy. If you want to flex on people at a young age, sure, go ahead, finance all you want. But that's not our goal. Our goal is to get wealthy. And so, we're not talking about financing them. We're saying, hey, I want to buy a boat. I'm going to spend 80K and I want to buy a boat brand new. Well, there's a reason people say the best boat is the boat you don't own, right? Because owning a boat is a lot of hassle. It's a lot of work. So we talk about 80K as the purchase price plus taxes or whatever else, but boats are way more complicated than that. So first of all, let's just talk about the opportunity cost of this 80 grand, right? So if we invest this 80 grand and we're just going to assume a nice solid steady return of 8%, we're not going to assume 10 to 15% to get all fancy. We're just going to be realistic and say a nice 8% return of 80 grand. That's $6,400 a year, okay? So for the price of $6,400 a year, you can rent a boat about 7 times, which is like every other week for 4 months. So, and that's your summer. So if you're going every other weekend, you just go out for a Saturday and you want to take the boat. We're talking about 8-hour rentals, not little short rentals, full day of boating. It's about $900 a day. You could do that 7 times with just the money that you earn and still keep your principal, still keep the 80K. So if you wanted to do that, that's one option. So we got to look at the real opportunity cost of that $80,000, that purchase price. $80,000, if you're invested that could pay for 7 boating trips every single year forever, right? You just pay whatever, you keep that 80 grand and you just take all the gains from it and just put that into your fun boat rental fee. And now at the end of 10 years, you don't have a boat that's 10 years old. You have $80,000 still. And you were able to go, again, 7 times. That's a pretty decent number. Now, if your goal is to be a boater and have a lifestyle where you're boating every single day, obviously that's not going to cut it. But for most people, between how busy life is, going every other weekend throughout the summer, that's pretty good. And if you want to do a full week at the lake, you can do that or whatever. It doesn't have to be spread out. But you don't need to own a boat to go boating quite a bit and make it really affordable. Now, that's only talking about the purchase price of that $80,000. Boats are way more expensive than that. Obviously, you're going to have a sick truck to tow your sweet boat. You're going to have a nice trailer. You're going to have registration fees. You're going to have all the gear. You're going to have to buy your own, bindings, wakeboards, life jackets, all that stuff. You're going to have to worry about storing the boat, winterizing the boat. Sure, if you live in Florida, the Carolinas, whatever, plenty of places where you don't have to winterize the boat, but a lot of places you do. Anywhere in the Midwest, right, in the Mountain West, a lot of places you're going to have to winterize your boat as well. That's expensive. And we're talking about, between all those different fees, thousands of dollars, right? Now, we're not going to talk about, some people talk about gas. Gas doesn't matter. If you're going boating, you're going boating, whether you rent it or you buy it. So those costs are all the same. We're talking about the difference between what you have to pay for in owning versus renting. And when you buy a boat, you have to buy so much more than just a boat. Plus annual maintenance fees. Some people say, you see a lot of different ranges on this. Some people say as much as 10% of your purchase price is what you're going to spend every year. Now, that's really high, and that might be true for like some really nice sailboats and things. For a lot of your speedboats and your wakeboarding, skiing boats, it's not going to be up there, but it could easily be 5%. So 5% of 80 grand was that 4 grand a year, right? 4 grand a year that you have to pay just for keeping upkeep and maintenance, and that's assuming nothing goes wrong, right? Insurance can be, up to $1,000 a year on your boat if you want to insure it. It's a pretty big ticket item. It makes sense. People want to party on the boats, and it can be reckless, a little dangerous. So boats are really expensive, is what I'm getting at, and I don't just mean the $80,000 that you need in the bank to go buy your boat, right? To go buy your fun toy, your luxury. They're really expensive every single year, and that really adds up over time. And again, if you just want to go boating for a week out of the summer, or if you want to go, every Saturday for a little while, every other Saturday, you can just do that based on the interest that you would earn on making a good investment with that $80,000. Plus, if you add on top of that the $4,000 that we're assuming for annual maintenance fees and winterizing and whatnot, which again, it could be more than that. You could get up to $8,000 a year on that, but we're just going to assume $4,000 a year. We're not looking at over $10,000 between opportunity cost of your investment and maintenance cost. $10,000 a year just to own your boat. That's a lot of money, right? $10,000 a year is a lot of money to pay for the ability to go boating, assume after you already purchased the boat and all the gear and everything else. I had an old boss, and he was awesome, and he grew up in Washington State, and he grew up literally on a lake. It wasn't this huge fancy lake. We're not talking about Lake Powell, Lake Mead, whatever, but it was a nice lake that they lived on, and he and his 2 brothers, they wakeboarded every single day. And they just had their own hydraulic lift in their backyard, their own private dock, and, but they would finish dinner and say, hey, want to go boarding? Sure. 5 minutes later, they were in the water, right? They weren't hauling and backing up the trailer or going to get their boat from their storage unit and driving it all the way to the lake and backing it in and waiting in line and going and parking the truck, and it takes hours. It was literally 5 minutes from when they'd say, all right, put your shorts on, let's get in the water, let's go. Drop it. That's awesome, and that's a whole lifestyle. And obviously, if you're going to be living that lifestyle, just buy your boat. There's no questions asked. I would never say you should rent a boat when you're living the lifestyle and doing it all the time. But if this isn't your passion and you guys aren't going all the time, is it really worth it? You have to go a lot to make boating worth it. Now again, in our numbers earlier, we're talking about $10,000 a year to go boating. If you're boating, maybe you have long summers and you don't really have cold winters, so you can boat 8 months out of the year and you're going every single weekend. 32 times a year, okay. Yeah, 32 times, if we're talking about $900 per time in renting fees, again, just go, right? We're not going to spend 30 grand a year to rent a boat to go every single weekend. But if you're not going every weekend throughout the year, or if you're not making use of it, you got to consider, is it really worth it? Not to mention, we talked about opportunity cost just with specifically that money, but also variety. When it comes to renting toys, the beauty of renting is that not only is it typically cheaper, again, if you're going all the time, it's not. But if you're just going once in a while, it's going to be cheaper to rent. Plus, you get the variety. You can say, hey, you know what? Instead, this weekend, let's go rent some 4-wheelers. Let's go rent some Razors. If you guys haven't driven a Razor, oh my gosh, is that a fun time. You're going to love it. They're sweet, and you can have all the variety, and you don't have to own all these items. Right? So in the winter it comes by and you want to go snowmobiling. Same thing, snowmobiles, they're 6 to 13K. So we're going to assume 10K, that you bought a 10K snowmobile. And they're about $200 a day to rent. They could be a little cheaper. They don't get much more than that, but we'll just say 200, a little on the higher end. So, for $10,000, again, our opportunity cost invested at 8%, that could be $800 a year. So you could go 4 times in a winter. Not bad. Not bad at all. Go snowmobiling 4 times, and you don't have to deal with all the hassle. Again, you don't have to buy another trailer. You don't have to worry about owning all the right winter gear. That all comes with your rental, your goggles, your helmets, your gloves, your boots, all that stuff that you need. Hundreds of dollars worth of gear per person. All of that stuff comes with your rental. So then you get the variety of, in the summer, sometimes we 4-wheel on the weekends, sometimes we boat. Sometimes we go and get Razors. Sometimes we do jet skis. In the winter, we'll do snowmobiles. We get all of that variety, and you just have to pay each time you go. Now, some people might say, yeah, but the feeling is just awful. Paying $200 to go rent a snowmobile, that's too much. Paying $900 to go, it's better than $80,000 to own a boat, plus the variety you get. It's honestly just so much better. If it's not your dream and your passion and your lifestyle, You can still go and do this all the time, right? We're talking about doing several things a year, right? Every single month, you go on 1 or 2 different trips to rent something fun, and it's still about the same, if not cheaper, than just your annual maintenance costs and your opportunity costs, obviously, of that money. So at the end of all of this, you had 10 years of partying, and you still have your $90,000, your $80,000, your $100,000, whatever that you invested, and you were living off of all that play money. That's the beauty of being able to get ahead and save and invest and say, hey, when I want luxuries, I can just do that based on, I don't have to touch my investments, my principal. I can just let my investments grow and then use the growth from those investments to fund my lifestyle. That's in financial freedom. That's financial independence, that you don't have to worry about losing all your money to spend and live life. You can just say, hey, I was disciplined and I put 80 grand in my investment portfolio, and every year I take 8 grand off of it, or $6,400 to be at that 8%, not 10%, we'll say 8%. And we party on that every year, and it's awesome. And I still have that amount of money. And plus you're still working and you're still growing your portfolio, but you know specifically $80,000, it's marked for you. You know exactly what that's for. That's for your party money. That's for your luxury toys, and you have a good time. One last specific example of this, my grandpa, I never met the dude, but back in the day, they used to own an RV and they loved it. It was good for their family. They had 4 kids. They would go RVing in the summer and they loved it. Great family purchase. They had a good time. Over the years, they started using it less and less, and they weren't really getting the full value of it. So he decided, whatever, I'm just going to sell it. So he sells the RV, whatever, it was a purchase they made. Well, they decide, hey, we like RVing. We've done it a lot. Let's go on another RV trip. So he's like, okay, well, we don't own an RV anymore. I'm just going to rent it. So he rents an RV, and it's for a full week, and they have a good time. And then he realized, what, we went for a week. He used his PTO. They went for a week to go RVing, and it was less expensive than his annual storage and registration fees. So he spent less money for a full week of rentals than what he's been spending for the full year just to store it and register it. So, I mean, it's just clearly just way easier. Plus, you don't have to deal with all the effort, all the work, sales tax, transactions. You don't have to store, you don't have to worry about any of that. All the headache is just taken away. You pay someone else for that. That's what you pay for in the rentals. And someone else gets to take care of all that. Meanwhile, you can just relax, pick up your RV, and go with your family. Or you can go boating. And then when the winter comes, you can go snowmobiling. And you can just have a good time doing all this variety of stuff and having all this good time without having to worry about buying and owning all these toys, which they really are just, they're a lot of work. And if it's your passion and you love it and you love cleaning your boat after and it's just your lifestyle, fine, go do that. But if it's not going to be your biggest hobby, your biggest passion, I would strongly recommend renting. And that's not just true for these big ticket items, right? Same thing is true for smaller things. If you want to have fun, if you like driving sports cars once in a while, go to a racetrack and you can rent a 6 sports car for a couple $100. And you can rent it and drive it around the track all day and have a good time. And then you can just walk away. And the next week you could do it with a different type of car. All right, do a Porsche this time. All right, do an Aston Martin, whatever you want to do. You can have that variety without having to own all these expensive cars. Sure. The flexing, that doesn't happen. But that's not the point. We're not trying to impress other people. We're trying to just live a happy life and have a good time ourselves. Consider renting. It's going to go a long way. Thank you so much. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.